Thank you, thank you. Yes, we are a place where God lives. I love that message. Perfect song, as always. Thank you, Mama Lisa. So welcome everybody. This is the last week of November, and November always takes me to that place of gratitude, and I am just so grateful for my Agape family. I am so grateful for my friends. I'm so grateful for this life. And I love it that we've been focusing this month on Ocean of Devotion. And then here comes the title, Swimming In. Be like Dory. Just keep swimming. So I don't know how many of you out there are Disney fans, but this is actually, we've got some hands. It's one of my very favorite movies. For one thing, it takes place at the Great Barrier Reef, right? So the story of finding Nemo is that Nemo is this adventurous clownfish, and he's captured from the Great Barrier Reef. And his dad and Dory go on this adventure to find Nemo. And along the way, they find all kinds of things. They find sharks, surfer dude, turtles, hypnotic jellyfish, hungry seagulls. I love those hungry seagulls, right? I think we might have some people in our life that are like that. Mine. So the characters in this movie bring it alive. But what I really was fascinated with was Dory. Because Dory had a challenge with her memory. So everything was new and fresh to Dory, but she was singly focused on what she needed to do, right? And so how is this going to weave in with Hanukkah? You'll see. Just give me a minute here. So Dory, this forgetful blue tang, had the blessing of forgetting. You might ask, why is that a blessing? I know that there's people in here that have had loved ones that have dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. It doesn't seem like a blessing. And yet, there's a blessing to let go of these challenges that have happened in life that end up in the driver's seat of how we feel about new adventures. So Dory had that way of being in that now moment because she was always forgetting. And once she was reminded of what she was there to do, she was focused, single focused on what needed to happen to find Nemo. So she's not haunted by what just happened. And believe me, a lot of things happen on this adventure, almost being eaten by some of these things that they run into, right? She never worries about that. She never worries about those associations. Like it didn't happen. She has the faith. So faith, I want you to remember that word as we talk about Hanukkah in just a little bit. Before I go there, I want to talk about divine forgetfulness. Well, for one thing, I have to say this. She might get mad at me. My wife is here. Hi, honey. Sometimes we both have a tendency to watch things that we forgot that we watched. Right? So in a way, it's like, oh, hey, wait. Bren might get to that point maybe halfway through the movie, and I might get to that point a few minutes into it, but we're both in that same page, right? Divine forgetfulness, it always seems new, like, hey, this looks like it's fun to watch. Let's watch this. Oh, we've seen this. But I want to talk about a deeper divine forgetfulness that has served me. When I was going to embark on AIDS life cycle for the first time, so that's a 7-day ride, 545 miles, from San Francisco to LA, I was pulled by the vision that this was mine to do. So I said yes. Then my mind got involved and said, what are you thinking? You're no athlete. You've never done anything like this before. How are you possibly going to get this done? Well, I just kept swimming. So there I am on some of the hardest hills. You know the hill that goes down into Sausalito?
Yes.
That's a great downhill, right?
Yeah.
But the tricky part is you have to come back up the hill to go home. So it was my first ride, and I'm on this hill, and I'm serious, 3 miles an hour, barely staying upright. And a car comes by and honks at me. So I get off my bike, and I have a recumbent bike. It weighs more than a regular, nice carbon light bike, and I'm pushing it up the hill, and I get a cramp in my quad. Then I get a cramp in my other quad. So all of this, remember, all of this is very new to me. I don't know the right ways to hydrate myself and all these things, and I'm in pain, man. I am just in pain. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. What am I thinking? I really can't do this. This is horrible. Well, I got up that hill, pushing my bike, and then I rode back over the Golden Gate Bridge, and I got to home base, and all that pain and all that negative stuff that was swirling around my mind vanished because I felt so accomplished that I did it. So the next time I went to ride, which was the next week, I woke up and I took that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of I did it, to the next ride. You know, it doesn't mean that I wasn't concerned, I wasn't worried, I was like, what's this day gonna bring? But I used that accomplishment and that faith that, well, if I did it before, I'll do it again. And I kept on riding and I kept on training. So I did that ride 4 times. And each time I'd get to a deeper place of forgetting the pain. Some of those painful moments when you're training. Some of those painful moments when I'm on my bike, by myself. There's people that are faster, there's people that are slower, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and my mind starts going. And I got to practice my practice and start singing on my bike, something that uplifted me and helped me remember that I have faith that I can do this. So, imagine that morning that you wake up and you just don't know how you're going to do it. There's something in your body temple that's bringing you pain, or in your emotional beingness that is bringing you pain, or there's just some situation that feels really hard. I invite you to invite in that divine forgetfulness. Just invite it in. And be like Dory, keep on swimming. And just know that this is a new day. Who knows what adventures are going to come your way. So, in Dory's world, yes, I'd say keep on swimming. And in this Agape world, I'd say keep on praying, keep on meditating, keep on coming here to community. Keep on studying. Keep on giving service. Keep on giving your generosity. So, this weaves me into Hanukkah. So at this time of Hanukkah, we have that faith and practice of this moment, just like Dory, as the mitzvah of our spiritual practices. So when I say mitzvah, I'm speaking of not only our Agape practices of deep listening, visioning, meditation, all those things, but the devotion of obeying what is ours to do. To show up as our authentic self, to show up as that conduit for spirit, to show up and express itself as our hands and our feet and our fin for swimming. So Hanukkah to me, growing up, okay, I'll be honest, it meant I was going to get some new underwear and new socks. And maybe a couple of toys. So, Jewish parents that had to give presents 8 days, it's not going to be a toy every day, let me tell you. But I do remember this, that we would gather around the menorah. We'd bring that light into our home, into our hearts. We'd say the prayer. We'd have some delicious latkes cooked in oil. And we'd receive the gifts. So that spiritual meaning of Hanukkah isn't necessarily what I remember as a child, but I remember the ritual and the connectedness to my family. The spiritual meaning of Hanukkah, the stories that you hear a lot about are is about the battle for the Jewish people to retain their own spiritual beliefs. And that the temple was destroyed. And that brought about a rising to the occasion. The Maccabee army, very much smaller than the other armies, to overcome. And Hanukkah is also a time of dedication and rededication. That's very important, that rededication piece. Because that's what we get to do every day. Every morning when we wake up, we get to rededicate ourselves to being this place where the light dwells within. So that oil that burned for 8 days was only supposed to be enough for one. And lighting the menorah is a very important piece of Hanukkah. And we're going to actually light the menorah. And I'm going to have Annalisa come help me. So lighting the menorah, you always light the shamas first, which is this middle candle. And then there's 8 candles. And tonight is the first night, so we only have one little candle here. And I'm going to tell you what the prayer is in English, and I'm going to have Annalisa do the Hebrew. So, blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah candles.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah.
Thank you, Annalisa. So I just remember as a child, us around the table, actually usually the kitchen counter, very excited because yes, I'm going to get a gift, but very excited to bring this light in for 8 nights. So tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah. And the Maccabees, they had this boundless faith in God, Hashem. It didn't matter that they were smaller in the amount of people they had. None of that mattered because they knew. They knew that they could overcome, they can rise, because they were devoted to their God, to that God within, to that light, that light that is in all of our hearts. So the miracle of Hanukkah is so much more than the oil burning for 8 nights. It's a time to fulfill our own faith, our own devotion, by rededicating ourselves to the spiritual practices that we remember. So I ask you to close your eyes right now. Take a deep breath. And just think of one practice that you can rededicate yourself to. Just one. Can you rededicate yourself to this one for the next 8 nights? Just allow yourself to know that that's going to happen with ease and grace. Now take another deep breath and see yourself practicing this practice. Doesn't matter what it is, you guys. Maybe it's the practice of kindness. Maybe it is the practice of meditation. And just see yourselves practicing this for the next 8 nights. Now take another deep breath. And just start moving your shoulders, rolling them back. And then maybe rolling them forward, and your wrists, and your ankles. See, we want to embody these practices. We want to embody what just came through to you. We want to embody this rededication time. So, it's interesting to me that this time of year is that time of year for celebrating the light, right? All these different traditions center around candles and lights. The Festival of Lights, like I brought a little thing here, Festival of Lights, that's what they call Hanukkah. But there's so many lights. It's that time of the year. It's this time in this area of our planet that we have those shortest days. So there's so much light in the darkness. There's so much to be found and to be remembered about who we are when we go inside, when we come within, and remember that we are the light. So I wanted to kind of go over some of the readings that Sarah so eloquently read for us earlier, because each one of them affected me deeply when I found them. I was so excited to find this quote from Crazy Horse. I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For you are at the center within you, and I am at that place within me. We shall be one. Wow. I don't know. That's very science of mind, isn't it? It's very new thought, and this is from a Lakota leader. He was actually the war leader. And how amazing and profound is that of taking time to talk about the light within and the light that he sees in everybody's eyes. So the next reading, and I love it that this always happens, is Reverend Verona told me it was her mom's favorite reading, and I didn't know this. This is what I found. Revelation 3:20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to them, and I will sup with them, and they with me. Again, when I read this, it just sort of fell upon my heart as, yes, that's what it's all about. Yes. Okay, I admit I tweaked a little. I took away the hymn and I made it so that it's for everybody, right? Because when I read it, I can do that, I can flip that in my mind for myself, but I wanted to be able to offer it up to you in that particular way. So I'll admit, I tweaked. And that last one from the mystical eye, and I have some of my mystical people in here that were in my class, because we're all mystics. We're all modern day mystics walking on this earth. And this comes from Joel Goldsmith, and the book is called The Mystical Eye. The unveiling of God takes place within you when you realize that it is the I in the midst of you that is God. Stop there for a minute to just contemplate that. It is the I in the midst of you that is God, in whom we can relax without words and without thoughts, and relax and receive the word, rest and receive spirit, rest in grace, with no concern for tomorrow and no regrets about yesterday, no living over yesterday's memory, for these have been erased. Just like Dory. So, I really love Disney movies. I don't always do them, but when I do, that's definitely one of my go-to movies. And I always find that in these movies, there's always some kind of message in there that opens up my heart. So I remember this when I finally sit down and put on something animated. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They don't write it just for kids. They write it for all of us. So this movie really also encouraged me and inspired me to go to Australia with my beloved, which we did 7 years ago. And 7 years ago today, right, we were there in Australia, swimming with the Dorys and the Nemos. So we were actually in the Great Barrier Reef, swimming around, and it felt like being in a giant fish tank. And it was amazing. I say a trip of a lifetime, and I know that there's going to be more. Right? So, as I embark on this time of Hanukkah, I want to dive into that forgetfulness. I want to choose the forgetfulness to let go of those situations and negative things that I've deemed negative that drive my life, to allow them to sit in the back seat. I don't need to avoid them or say they didn't happen. But they don't drive who I am. They don't drive what is up for my journey next. And I really feel like I'm very blessed that I was born that way. I feel like I'm wired that way. I've always had that ability to forgive and forget. But it's not a total forgetfulness. It's like when the uncle that I had challenges with as a child that tried to kiss me, who's still in my life because he's still my uncle. I forgive. I don't forget. I don't avoid. But this last trip I went back to Vegas, I was in the swimming pool and he came up and he put his hands around my waist. And I just took a deep breath and I took his hands and I removed his hands from my waist and I swam away. Just like Dory, right? But you know what? I was really happy that that happened, so I could gauge my progress. It didn't mean that I had to avoid him for the rest of the trip at every dinner, make sure I was not near him or didn't say hello or anything like that. It just meant that, I take care of myself. I know as a little girl I didn't have that voice yet, but I know who I am now. So that thing that happened just makes me know how powerful and strong I am and how I can speak up and take care of myself. So I invite you to this time of the Festival of Lights, of lighting your candles in whatever way you do it, whether it's Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or lighting your Christmas tree up or whatever you celebrate. It's actually the pagans that put candles on Christmas trees in the beginning. So whatever resonates for you, do it with that extra grain of obeying, rededicating yourself to your authentic self. What's yours to do? What you're here to do? What's the calling on your life? I have no doubts that it will be really powerful if you just take an extra breath, an extra moment before you light every candle and celebrate with your family, whatever it is you choose to celebrate.